My name is Tom Pond. I'm 26 years old and I'm from Norcross, Georgia. When I was 6 years old, my dad got diagnosed with brain cancer. Shortly after that, he passed away. And I think that was like the defining point of my childhood, I guess. That's what like everything revolved around growing up. My dad not being there, there's this hole in our family. There was so much pain and anger and confusion and hurt, and nobody talked about it. We were raised in a Christian home. My mom believes in God and was like a prayer warrior, but for me it was kind of like when my dad died, God died, and everything that comes with God, like I believe like a purpose, a sense of direction, the hope in a future, like all that stuff kind of died with it. Growing up, I always felt like the odd one out. I felt like there was something different about me that nobody else could relate to. And that was a belief I had that impacted everything I did. I started drinking around the age of 13. I just remember I was with my friends and drinking like Smirnoff Ice or something, but I just remember trying it and feeling the feeling, and I was like, oh wow. I think growing up without a dad, I didn't have somebody to show me like what it is to be a man, so I never really like developed self-esteem or confidence or any of that. So I realized that when I was drinking, it was a lot easier to hang out with girls, and like I didn't really care about doing stuff I didn't want to do, so I just started doing that a lot. Probably by the age of 16, when I could drive, I was drinking every day. And in college, I actually ended up getting a girl pregnant, and she decided that she was gonna have an abortion. I just remember that broke me. I was already drinking and smoking weed every day, but then I just hated it. She told me I couldn't tell anybody, and I was raised in a home where you don't do that. That's not right. But at the same time, I was a 21, 22-year-old kid partying every single day, making no money to support a child. So while I claim that I told her I wanted to keep the child, I didn't. And that was one of the hardest things for me to admit at No Longer Bound, and I didn't even know it. But once I finally admitted that I was happy that we didn't have that child, that's where God really came in and met me. Growing up, I hated recovery because I watched both my older brothers in and out of rehab since I was 15. We probably spent every holiday at a rehab, and I hated it. I went to visit my older brother once, and we had a terrible relationship. I felt like he hated me. And I went to visit him when he was about 8 months into this new program called No Longer Bound. And I remember leaving and telling my mom, man, he's got something that I want. He's got this peace, he's got this lightness about him that I've just never seen. My brother one night, Jake, and I remember we were at a party and we just went into this closet, and I was just telling him I thought, that's what I wanted to do. And I remember him just being like, if you think that asking for help makes you weak, it doesn't. That's what being a man is about. And I think that's the moment where I was like, I need help. It was probably one of the biggest changing points in my life. I was just a kid. I know for a fact I was a scared little kid, hiding and running from everything, and I came out in my first steps of being a Christian man. I learned that my whole life, because of the things that had happened to me, I was a victim, and I stayed in the victim circle all the time. I realized that I continued to play that card because it worked, or at least I thought that it worked. I don't think other people thought that it worked. I found a place where I could express to God how I really felt about him, and that I hated him, and that I thought he was the one who just takes things from me. He took everything from me. And I remember I was just so encouraged to have that honest dialogue with him. And after I told him that, it was like this block between me and him was finally removed. So I think that's where my relationship with God really started. And that's also where I felt love for the first time. I just remember I wouldn't call him Father because I was like, No. Like, I never thought that I would say dad to anybody again. I'm never going to. And I just remember one night, like, something happened and I was angry and annoyed, and I was working on this letter to my mom, and the letter turned out to be terrible, but I just remember like bawling, crying after I wrote it. And God was like, "Are you finally ready to call me Father?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that changed everything. That really sent me on this path that I started seeking, what is a man? God, you're my father, but what is a father? Because I've never had that. So the story behind my tattoos, I actually have 3. There's one on my back shoulder. It's my father's initials. That was my first tattoo. And then I have this band here, and I have this writing here. I always love tattoos, and I love being able to just like express yourself through that. This one is just a band. It kind of like symbolizes, like, this one can be your life before Christ, and it's like thin and broken. And this one is your life with Christ, and it's like thick and strong. And I have right here is Hebrews 11:1. And it's now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance in what we do not see. And I actually got it written in Greek. I want people to ask me about it. That verse meant so much to me in the program, because there were days when I didn't want to get up. There were days, I was depressed and suicidal before I went into the program. I hated life, and the first 6 months of the program, you're just digging into your wounds, and there's healing, but it's not like the healing you're expecting. So it's just, somebody asks, "Hey, what does your tattoo mean?" I'm like, "Hey, let me tell you a 20-minute story about how awesome God is and the hope that we have in Jesus Christ." If I could tell somebody, one thing, it would just be that it's okay to be hurt, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to be broken. I know that that's what I needed to hear when I checked into my program, and man, that makes the world a difference. Like, we are all hurt people, and we need a Savior. And that Savior has come, and He died for us, and He rose.